And it's my pleasure to introduce the moderator of this panel, Coming to America. I asked Anne how I should introduce her, and she said, well, you can let everyone know how terrible a boss she is, but that's contrary. It's been a real delight to be able to work with Anne. Anne Burroughs is our current interim president and CEO, and she most recently comes from the Taproot Foundation, where she was the executive director. So she has really deep experience in running nonprofit organizations. The Taproot Foundation provides expertise and services, functional services across the board, from finance, marketing, fundraising. So she has a lot of experience in running nonprofit organizations. But we're really fortunate to have Anne at the Japanese American National Museum because her personal life, her values, and her personal story really align well with the Japanese American story. And as a youth in South Africa, Anne was a political prisoner for her position against apartheid. So she has a very strong social justice background, which aligns well with the Japanese American National Museum. She's also currently the chair of the board of Amnesty International. So we're really fortunate to have Anne Burroughs.
Thank you, Rick. Thank you. Hi, everyone, again. I greeted you all this morning, and I'm sorry for those sitting behind the podium that you can't see me. So we're going to be a little bit less formal this afternoon than we were in parts of this morning. But, you know, just to sort of set the context of the panel before I introduce our speakers, you know, I'm very struck by the fact that this is a national conversation on rights and justice. And when I think of the word rights, it's such an extraordinarily powerful word. And for me, the most powerful thing about that word is that it is so different from a privilege. A privilege is something that is bestowed and withheld, but rights aren't. Rights are enshrined in the Constitution and they're protected by the law. So I think that this is it's a very apposite time for us to be having the conversation. The other thing that I want to address before I introduce our panelist is the issue of fear. And this is to bring in some of the context of the museum and how this fear is going to affect our work and has begun to affect our work. I think that one of the things about fear, we see it happening in this country, we see it in countries happening all over the world, is that when the fear is as prevalent as it is now, we can be paralyzed by that fear. So we have, on an annual basis, almost 20,000 school children that come to the museum. They come from Title I schools. Many of them come from immigrant families. Many of them come from families whose parents are undocumented. They themselves are undocumented. So they come to the museum, they have come to the museum to learn about that history must never be repeated. They've come to the museum to learn about the fact that the Constitution did fail a sector of people, a significant number of people during the Second World War, but it's also a redemptive story because they leave here understanding that, well, we've been able to tell them this is America, it won't happen again. But those kids now come here and we have to have different conversations with them. And they leave here with a very, very different perspective. So we're not able to allay that fear. So it's very real. It's very real for us in the museum. It's very real for us as we engage all of these conversations. So we have this amazing panel this afternoon to start to talk about the issue of coming to America. It's an all-male panel, if you hadn't noticed. But I'm very happy to tell you that we have an all-female panel later this afternoon.